What is edema? If you have seen our previous videos on lymphatics, then this question must have crossed your mind several times. We will thus provide a comprehensive response to it in this video. Therefore, watch this video till the conclusion for a better understanding. Since tissue fluid plays a significant role in edema, so learning a little about it will help us better comprehend the concept of edema. So, what is this tissue fluid? Well, tissue fluid is the medium that bathes cells by surrounding them completely. And another name for this medium is interstitial fluid. And this interstitial fluid makes up about 20% of extracellular fluid. Now, what role does this fluid serve in normal physiology? Well, because of the capillary membrane, there is no direct contact between blood and cells. So, tissue fluid or interstitial fluid acts as a medium for exchanging useful and required substances between blood and tissues at the level of capillary beds. And we know very well from our previous videos that at the level of capillaries, oxygen and other nutritive substances diffuse from the arterial end of the capillary, and via tissue fluid it reaches the cells. And then carbon dioxide and other wastes diffuse from the cells and enter the venous end of the capillary, again through this tissue fluid. The fluid that moves out at the arterial end is said to be filtered, and the amount that gets absorbed again at the venous end is said to be reabsorbed. Thus we can say the process of filtration at the arterial end of the capillaries helps in the formation of tissue fluids, and the process of reabsorption at the venous end helps to maintain the volume of tissue fluid. But here, what happens is that around 20 litres of blood is filtered at the arterial end per day. But out of that 16 to 18 litres gets reabsorbed. Now here, lymphatics or lymph vessels are also involved, as they absorb the remaining 2 to 4% of the fluid and return them back to the blood. In this way, it prevents the over-accumulation of interstitial fluid. This occurs in normal physiological conditions. But in case if there is excessive filtration, maybe due to increased capillary permeability or any other reason, or decrease in reabsorption, or decrease or no lymphatic drainage, then what will happen? Obviously, this tissue fluid will exceed its normal limit and gets accumulated in the interstitial spaces. And when it gets accumulated, swelling may occur, as you can see in this picture. And this is the condition that is termed edema. To sum it up, edema is a condition of tissue swelling that is caused by excessive accumulation of fluid in the tissues. And this edema can be generalized or local. Whereas generalized edema involves the entire body, not a particular organ or area of the body. But local edema is one that occurs in a specific area of the body, such as the abdomen, lungs, and extremities like hands, feet, ankles, and legs. The accumulation of fluid can be inside or outside of the cell. And on that basis, edema is classified into two types. One is intracellular edema, and the other one is extracellular edema. As the name shows, intracellular edema is the accumulation of fluid inside the cell, and extracellular edema is defined as the accumulation of fluid outside the cell. Now, let us look at the reasons or causes of these types of edema. Intracellular edema is mainly caused by any of the three reasons, that is, malnutrition, poor metabolism, and inflammation of the tissues. Let's see how malnutrition is responsible for it. We know malnutrition occurs because of poor intake of food, or it can occur because of poor circulatory system, or if there is some problem in CVS. And it is so because we know CVS is responsible for the transport or supply of nutrition to the body cells. But if there will be any problem in CVS, then obviously this nutritive supply will get affected. So, because of any of these reasons, there will be a lack of nutrition. This lack of nutrition then causes the ionic pumps of the cell membranes to depress, leading to poor ionic exchange through the cell membrane. Here sodium particularly plays its role, because malnutrition causes ionic pump depression, which does not allow sodium leakage out of the cell. And so sodium concentration inside the cell increases. This increase in sodium inside the cells causes endosmosis, because now the inside of the cell is more hypertonic, which means more solute is inside the cell than outside. That is, hypertonic means contains less solute compared to the inside. And endosmosis is defined as the movement of water or fluid inside the hypertonic cells from the outside hypertonic environment. So this overall endosmosis will ultimately result in intracellular water accumulation or intracellular edema. The next reason is poor metabolism. Poor metabolism is caused by the poor blood supply. This poor blood supply can be due to any problem in CVS, and it ultimately leads to a lack of oxygen and other nutrients. It results in poor function of the cell membrane, and again there are chances of endosmosis, resulting in edema, by following the same mechanism as we described before. The next reason for intracellular edema can be inflammation of tissues. We know that during inflammation of the tissues, usually vasodilatation occurs, and the permeability of the cell membrane increases. So once this permeability increases, the movement of ions, including sodium into the cell, also increases. That again results in endosmosis, and thus ultimately will cause intracellular edema. After intracellular edema, let's talk a bit about extracellular edema. That is an accumulation of fluid outside the cell. And the causes for this extracellular edema can be abnormal leakage of fluid from capillaries into interstitial space. That means excess filtration at the capillary level. And it can be because of the obstruction of lymphatic vessels. As we know, lymphatics play a role in the absorption of excess fluid. So if they'll be obstructed, then definitely this function won't be efficiently done anymore, and so edema may occur. So, these could be the possible phenomena leading to extracellular edema. But the underlying condition which leads to extracellular edema include heart failure, renal disease, decreased amount of plasma proteins, lymphatic obstruction, and increased endothelial permeability. Let's look at how these conditions lead to edema. Edema occurs in heart failure because of various reasons, such as failure to pump blood. In heart failure, the heart won't be able to pump blood from the veins to the arteries. So overall pressure will shift from arteries to veins and capillaries because blood has to stay there because of no further pumping. This increase in pressure leads to increased capillary permeability, and so fluid, including larger protein particles, will leak out of the capillary membrane into the interstitial space, causing extracellular edema. Also, when the pressure in veins and capillaries increases, that means now the pressure in arteries is less. This fall in arterial pressure during heart failure will lead to very less or negligible blood flow toward other vital organs. Because we know blood pressure is the driving force for blood flow. So when blood flow to the kidney decreases, the glomerular filtration rate, GFR, in the kidneys decreases, resulting in sodium and water retention. So, once this retention takes place, then both the volume of blood and the volume of body fluid increase. Because of the increase in blood volume, capillary hydrostatic pressure also increases, and so does the filtration of fluid. So these factors will ultimately lead to the accumulation of fluid, causing extracellular edema. Now, other than heart failure, another condition leading to edema can be renal disease. If there is some renal disease, the kidney won't be able to function efficiently, and so it will fail to excrete water and electrolytes, particularly sodium, leading to water and electrolyte retention. This fluid again will cause more blood volume. More volume, more capillary hydrostatic pressure, thus more filtration, and ultimately more accumulation. Also, it will cause an increase in extracellular fluid, so more tissue fluid, more chances of edema. And edema due to renal disease is normally generalized edema, as it starts from the legs, but later progresses to the entire body, hence termed generalized. Now the next condition can be a decreased amount of plasma proteins. If you recall our previous video on microcirculation, you will remember that both the hydrostatic pressure, which was simply blood pressure, and the osmotic pressure, which was actually the pull by the plasma proteins. Both these pressure were majorly responsible for the material exchange at the tissue level from capillaries to the tissues. So this certain osmotic pressure, created mainly by plasma proteins, is very important here. But when the amount of plasma protein decreases, then the colloidal osmotic pressure decreases. And because of this, the permeability of capillary increases, resulting in increased capillary filtration. More filtration means more amount of fluid will leak out of the capillary. This fluid then accumulates in interstitial space, causing extracellular edema. The amount of plasma proteins decreases during the conditions like malnutrition, liver diseases, renal diseases, burns, and inflammation. The next reason for extracellular edema can be lymph obstruction, and the edema caused due to this particular reason is called lymphedema. This edema is common in a parasitic disease called filariasis. During this disease, the parasitic worms live in the lymphatics and obstruct the drainage of lymph, leading to the accumulation of lymph. This accumulation, along with the cellular reactions, leads to swelling, which is prominent in the legs and scrotum. If this obstruction is repeated, particularly in these regions, then it results in fibrosis and the development of elephantiasis, means elephant-like enlarged affected areas. Now the last possible reason for extracellular edema can be increased endothelial permeability. Now, by all the discussions that we have done before, we know very well that if the permeability of endothelial cell membrane increases, then the leakage or fluid filtration will also increase, and ultimately its accumulation in interstitial space will lead to extracellular edema. But the condition in which this endothelial permeability increases include burns, inflammation, trauma, allergic reactions, and certain immunological reactions, etc. These conditions often lead to oozing out of fluid that accumulates in surroundings, thus causing edema. So, this was all about the edema, where we learned about its definition, types, and what could be the possible reasons for intracellular and extracellular edema. For more such interesting videos, keep visiting sqadia.com.
Explore our extensive library of over 1,800 video lectures to learn about a wide range of topics. Only on sqadia.com.